All right, we are back. Like we never left, episode 22 of the small cap review. I feel like I say this sometimes, but this one should be a shorter video today. This Thursday, the 30th in the market was a bit of a slower day. With all that said, let's go ahead, jump into it. Like usual, starting with the leading gappers, HLTH, 95% gapper. And as always, let's take a look at the daily chart. So this one ended up opening a little bit in no man's land. Yeah, it did have this, 9-cent level below it that you could possibly use. But for me, the key level up here was at 13.20. You can see 1, 2, 3, many touches at this level. And when it gapped up just a couple days ago, I guess this was last Friday maybe, you see that that is the level that it had rejected. So for me, in my mind, that was kind of the key level to be watching going into the day. And when this opened, it did open, positive EMAs on top of VWAP, and did give a little bit of a dip for me back down to this actual daily level right here would have been better. But I suppose if we draw a zone, let's see, we're doing this live to encapsulate the wick there and keep that daily level. Still no. I was thinking if maybe it would touch it there, but so doesn't really give much of an opportunity at the open besides just joining the strength in the first 2 minutes, and then goes up into this 1320 zone that it has had a hard time with many times in the past. And we see the same exact thing here where it rejects it. You do get a decent bounce opportunity here looking at the pre-market high that had ended up being a double top in the pre-market and also lines up with the 8 EMA. So this could have been a nice entry here for you looking to get high of day. And you do end up getting that, but very quick on a fake breakout. So you could have gotten a 20% move out of this right here if you were quick on your sells. Once you see it, go back below this previous high day. That's a clear short trigger there. And then it does give a really nice opportunity here on the short side. So you know how we like to do it. Get the fibs out, draw them down to the lows. And so you're looking for something 61 to 78 fib, and you get it. Let me change the color, make it a little easier. And you get a nice bounce up here, lining up with the daily level, clean rejection there, and fade the rest of the day. So, okay play on the long side if you take it here, and then a nice play on the short side. So that's HLTH. We will just move down the list. Like I said, not anything too crazy to note here. So let's do SMFL. Make this bigger. Okay, so what do we have on the daily chart? When you're looking at it, you kind of have a range of behaviors on gap days. So a big wick on this day, man. So we get a gap up this day, obviously a huge spike there. Gap up on this day, you do get a spike, but gives it all back. Same thing on this day here. And most recently, if you want to count this one, sure it was a decent gap. Get a nice big upper wick, and then on this day gave it all back. So kind of 50-50 on its behavior on gap days. But let's see where it opens. I have this drawn out as a daily zone here, where we get these wicks and attempts up into the zone. We also have this daily gap right above it. And then for me, the next levels are down here at 510, 511. And then there was a pre-market zone from this gap day that I had drawn out here that I just extended down here at the bottom of the range. So when I see this gapping up kind of towards this also is a big gap, so it's a gap within a gap here. So when I see it kind of gapping up within this gap, daily zone above, pre-market pressure above as well. I am not going to go long on a trade right below a daily zone and right below pre-market levels. For me, it would have to go above these levels, come back and retest for me to get interested. And you get just a, a killer of a candle to start, where you get this big upper wick rejection. And once it fails this kind of pre-market consolidation area, comes up, retest, and back down to previous zone of interest. So this was definitely a name that was more of a short watch. And let's see what it looks like when you draw out the fibs here. I think we probably have a pretty good idea of what it's going to be. 61 to 78 fib, rejection, and done. So as always, I mean, the reason we're looking at this level in particular, one, because we see it happen over and over and over again, and two, it gives us really nice risk reward. If you are entering a play, in between these zones, risking the high, you're risking about 6% to get, of course you want it to go below this low that it made before, but as kind of a starter, that's over 2-to-1 risk reward ratio on this one, and obviously gives a lot more back to the 5-minute 200 EMA, which is the typical target for day one shorts. So, or at least a place to take some profits. So you see that here played out nicely, and it was overall a clean play to the short side. STSS, this is a quick and easy one. Should sound extremely familiar. 2 days ago, to start the week, this was a name that was a pretty clean trader, had that deep fade at open off of the clear pre-market zone and went zone to zone. So you like seeing that, and let's see, just for fun, we'll drag this thing out because this was important as well. So when you when you get this really intense pre-market drive, there's really no opportunity unless you're playing pre-market and trying to get in off this zone. Not much you can do. Goes up, taps the previous pre-market high zone, and that's about all she wrote. We get failed follow through here, and we cannot push through it at open. Go ahead, get the fibs out. What do we see? And I've not done this ahead of time, so if any of these are not 61 to 78 fib, I'm not gaslighting you, just picking the ones that are. But see, 61 fib lining up with a daily level, great place to get in, risking high day, and then of course you can add and move your risk down as you see appropriate. So definitely a clean name on the short side once it goes ahead and taps that pre-market high level from day one. 5 minutes, so it's a little easier to see. Comes up, tests these same levels that it rejected 2 times on day one, and then a 3rd time in the pre-market, and inability to get up there for another test, and it is a dumperoonie with cheese. We get a almost 50% fade on the name. So really clean name on the short side. That's kind of been the theme of the day, like I mentioned. Let's do we can do ONMD for a moment. If we go ahead and draw out these previous high days, we'll see something here, I imagine. Yeah, so that ends up kind of being the base today, but you also get that base here in the pre-market and after hours for this move up. So for me, we've seen a couple of these multi-day runners where we get a decent gap up. For me, the gap up was not quite high enough because it still has a lot to fight through from the initial day of the move, where we made this high up in between this 30 to 35 cent 2 daily pivots that we had from the initial move. And what do we see here today? Rejects it in after hours, and then we kind of fill. It's not a gap, so we can't say it fills the gap, but it does reach up to that upper pivot. For me, there just isn't a ton that you can use to play this thing off of the open, yet it is a nice, clean, kind of flag with a weak open look on it. But when there are no levels, it makes it more difficult for me to want to get interested in it. Sure, you could have maybe drawn that just from this little area here, that from the after hours to pre-market gap. You could have had that in there. But as you see, I'm drawing it now. I did not have that. So little bit more of a tougher one to play. You know, maybe you get this bounce off of VWAP once it is back above, and you know, it has a pretty clear painted pre-market high area here that you can easily have drawn. And yeah, maybe you play the dip off of this, trying to go zone to zone. There's a couple, now that you look at it, a couple ways you could have played it. Nothing that was for sure, you know, a home run type of play. Here it doesn't give me the range that I want, and here is just not as much of a setup as I would want either. Because in my head, you know, I'm playing, you know, I'm going to probably take some at the first zone it comes to, which is this pre-market zone, which again is like a 10% move. So you do end up, you know, add the two 10% moves together, get the 20%, but was not as predictable as I would have liked to take it on the long side. And you know, if you're going to take it short, it does not bounce up high enough for me, but a nice rejection of this pre-market zone if that's how you want to play it. And then back, like we said, to this obvious area of interest, this previous high of day in the move, and an obvious area of support in the pre-market. And you also have the 5-minute 200 right about in this area as well. So decent play on the short side. Let's go MNTS. This was, I think right now, probably the leading percentage-wise stock in the market. So let's take a look at the daily. You know, it's a penny name like we have gotten so accustomed to over the last, you know, probably month plus at this point, longer than that. It's been a long time. And we open at a really nice area. We have daily pivots right below. We actually even have a daily gap right here too. I'm going to go ahead and draw this stuff in. And yeah, we'll leave it. Here's a nice pivot as well. So we've seen a couple names like this recently where you are in just like pivot heaven, you know, so many levels down here that it could bounce off of the open. And we do end up getting a pretty decent move here where you get this dip, and then, you know, it's kind of a classic mover. It comes down, does not break that low a day, so we get that low a day in the first 5 minutes that we like to see, and then a nice move up. Not enough juice here, just taps into this pre-market zone here and rejects it on a double top type look. So maybe you take it down here, 20% move, decent. You know, of course, a hard dump after that, and then once we start reclaiming all of these daily levels, making higher lows, and you know, kind of the big move here is this bounce off of the daily gap. That's when we get this new high of day, hold the EMAs, and push up to these higher daily levels. And we have those here from this, you know, pretty clear area of congestion here. There's a bunch of ways that you could have drawn these levels. Could have that one drawn out, that one could have had a whole zone right here. So really everything up here gets a little bit more congested and harder for the stock to break through. So even though with that it breaks over the whole dollar and gives a really nice move, I mean, from lows have 53 cents, and that was a perfect tap of this daily level, which was a multi-touch daily level. And honestly, probably could have drawn a zone in here, at least like that. If not, you know, whatever. We'll just do it like that. See what that looks like. Yeah, pretty clean there if you have that drawn in. But of course, longing a stock after a move like this um, is a lot more risky. The payoff is nice, but the win percentage is not. So I guess it all depends on your style. Was there another one? I think there was maybe. Did we do HLTH? Did we do this? I'm losing my mind. No, we did not. All right, this was the other one I wanted to do. HLTH. Okay, so what do we have here? I'm not sure why I didn't see it on the gap list because this is a gap of. No way. Did we do this? Am I going crazy? Chat, is this real? Yeah, it was the first one we did, of course. Yeah, so that'll do it. Sorry, I lost my mind there at the end. Shorter video today because there was not as much to go over. You know, we did have some other moves intraday like FFIE, Oh my gosh, I just blew the chart. Um, so like FFIE gave a bit of a move as well. And then you had, come on, FFIE, show it. There we go. And then you had, what was it? SOBR had a move today as well, but we will leave those be. Call the video. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully we have a more exciting day tomorrow in the market, and whether we do or we don't, I'll be here making the video. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.